All right. So the idea going forward here is that I'll just do recordings of the class while we're in here talking, visiting about it, whatever. I'll post that up there. And it looks like there's been some good discussion out in general about different software packages and the pros and cons of different ones. There again, I'm not here to dictate which ones. I believe Mohammed came up and found one for Graylog. And Graylog is a good solution. I've used it in the past. And it's great for collecting logs themselves and then sending them up to something else. So whether that gets sent up to Wazaa or use the ones built into Wazaa, or you wanted to do log collection and send it to Splunk or whatever else, that's what Graylog's really for. It's just a good syslog connector.
Does Splunk usually have good third-party integration, or is it kind of meant to be more an all-in-one?
Almost all of them are good third-party integration on that side. So because everybody's going to have their different tools. And so these SIMs, these overall ones, are meant to be pulling in just about everything, because then they can be the icing on the cake kind of thing for a lot of things. Obviously, with some of the built-in ones, you're going to have some extra niceties because they have the ability to do that. But it just depends on what you're trying to pull in here. So let's see here.
I was just posting there, so I didn't forget to be active on the server.
Oh, you're good. So on the back end side, we'll have that all finalized and ready to go on Thursday. So you guys will get access to the NetLab pods. I'll put that in Blackboard so you guys can jump in and test and make sure you got access. We're basically there. We just have to get you guys some desktops. The idea is that everybody will have their own pod when we set that up. So when you go to make a reservation, it'll just be the one that's assigned to you kind of thing. And I may have to have everybody log in and test, and then that'll get your accounts in there, and then I can pod assign some things out. So there'll be some little steps there. But when you do that, not only will you have your own pod, but at that point, the idea is that you will be able to save your work. So unlike most of the NetLab labs where everything reverts back to default when you start up, this one will stay and maintain. That way, if you're pulling down documents, PDFs, whatever else to your machine to be able to learn from, you can absolutely do that. And I'm talking about the virtual machine inside the pod, not on your main laptop, desktop. Anybody else have any other thoughts or anything they've seen so far? So the good question is how are you guys going to get started? My directive is build a SOC, right? What does that mean, and what software do you have, and what's that information? So I think the best thing that when we get to on Thursday, we'll be giving you the topology of what everything looks like, so that there you guys can start to build an image, decide how you're going to split things out, that kind of thing. So that's the intention on Thursday for that. But right now, the thing would be looking for these different software packages. And I think some of you have done that just by looking through here, that you've gone out to AI or whatever else and said, hey, what are good software packages that would exist in a SOC, right? Pretty simple startup. When you start looking at these, you're going to find things like this, like say, for example, Wazaa, and how do you get started, right? There's a bunch of information. How do you want to install it? Well, if we look at their quick start guide, you can obviously do this really simply just on a Linux VM or something like that. But when you really want to deploy it, you're going to see that there's main components in here. And this is a lot like Security Onion was one that was brought up. You can deploy it as a real quick VM, and it has everything baked in, but then you have one virtual machine trying to do everything, and it will get clobbered fast depending on the size of the network. So most of these SIMs will have multiple pieces broken out. You'll typically have some form of an indexer, the server, and some dashboard, all right? Splunk has a similar type approach where it's broken out. If you actually go and look at something like, say, Security Onion, and you go look at the software and the documentation. Oh, they usually show this out here. There it is. And here is their type of architecture that's in there. And so evaluation-wise, they're going to have something like Streka, Suricata, and Zeek. That's what's doing all the IDS, IPS type installation. That's going out to an Elastic agent. which is then getting sent to Elasticsearch. That's kind of the database or the collector. This would be the equivalent of the indexer in Wazaa. All right. Same way here, you can use what they call Logstash, same concept of Logstash with Reddit and Elasticsearch. Again, this is kind of a standalone type version that you would deploy. If you wanted to go out to a full-blown distributed node, which is what you guys would do, then you would have these individual logs being sent out to an Elastic agent, which would then forward the logs up to Logstash, which would then go down to your Elasticsearch, and you would have multiple search nodes out here. This is very similar to what we talked about before, or at least over here, of that indexer and server side. So something is collecting all the logs and indexing them, then it's passed off to a server that's going to house most of the main components, and then just the UI dashboard itself is its own system. If you tried to run this all on one, it will work, but it will crater once it starts processing too much data. So in the terms of like Security Onion, it's going to be running Kibana for most of that, right? And it'll run Elasticsearch as the cluster that's indexing everything under the hood. So becoming familiar with those different nodes and what they mean, that's really what you're after here. So even if you said, let's deploy Security Onion, all right, well, what does that mean? In a search node, you're going to have Elasticsearch and Logstash. In the manager search part, you're going to be using stuff like Kibana and Logstash and all these other pieces connected in between this Security Onion console. And then on your forward node, that's going to be where your Zeek and Suricata are installed. You guys would be doing something similar, maybe off the router that's out there as well. If you wanted to run a honeypot mode, you could actually go and do that over here as well, where it's running those services and then sending that out. All right. This is the kind of stuff that I'm looking for you guys to kind of read and go through. And you'll learn more by going through this than you would out of the book and the PowerPoints kind of thing. These guys have really good documentation. I've used them to deploy. For example, here, we're going to be deploying primarily on Proxmox. And so it wouldn't hurt for you guys to be able to come in and see how that's going to be done, because that's what we're doing on our side. Same way with Wazaa. Hey, man, what you got? Do you have a question? What's up?
Sample operations class.
That's this class. Yep. Yeah, you're welcome to join in if you want. This one here on Wazaa, when you're doing this proof of concept, this may be a good place for you guys to get started, in which case you would deploy that manager out here in the central components and the dashboard and the indexer, and then you would have your endpoints on your Windows boxes. This would be what you guys would deploy on your boxes that you get off NetLab. So you guys will each get a quote unquote Windows desktop, and that will be where you would deploy those Windows agents so that you can have that information come back. So what do you guys want to do for a next step on the Discord side?
We go on the software we use. Is that what we're going to end up using as a whole class, like the same stuff?
So there's one overall environment. If you guys want to explore a couple other packages, like for example, install Wazaa, but also install Graylog and also install these other ones. A lot of times we can point those logs to go to multiple places. So as long as we can configure that without breaking something, I'm more than happy to facilitate that. There again, if we can get to a full-blown working SOC, great. But if it's just everybody exploring the individual tools that are in here and setting it up with this environment so that we can start pointing things to it, because honestly, that's the hardest point or part. You can deploy Security Onion at home and you can point your little PC to it, but you're never really going to collect data unless you're at home traveling the internet, or you know what I mean? So the idea here is that we have enough people in the class that will generate traffic so that you guys can start seeing these tools and how they collect. Because I will tell you, the hardest part of all these is getting them deployed correctly. You'll deploy them, it won't be correct. You'll have to blow it away and start again and again and again until you figure out there was a gotcha that wasn't in the documentation. I need to figure that out. That's what ultimately I'm looking for in this class. So as a group, would you rather do it as one software package and that's what everybody works on? Or would you rather have a bunch of packages that you guys could work on that environment? Knowing that you're going to be working with on campus and virtual as well. Riley, Kevin, Ian, you guys got any suggestions?
I was gonna say with working with a single package.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I think for the larger packages, it's going to be helpful to just keep it the same. But maybe for some of the smaller ones or the ones on the outlying agents, that's something that's a little easier to do individually if
Okay.
if we wanted.
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, the sign would be easier to get one generic one that you guys chose to do. And then from there, you could have other things. Like I said, you could deploy Graylog and still have it kick it back up to Waza. There's no problem with that.
Well,
Do you have a thought? Somebody did online?
yeah, I was gonna ask a question at the end of this, but it seems pertinent right now, which is what are we predicting like the functionality of this SOC going to be? Are we going to be doing the entirety of the SOC with like threat intelligence and policy development, or is this more just a hardware setup?
So if you can get that far, great. That's kind of it, is what do you think you can accomplish within the next, what do we have? 4 weeks left? Something like that? 5 weeks? So what can you do with 5 weeks in order to get towards a fully functioning SOC?
Okay, I see. Yeah, that really drives my decision towards a single software package in regards to if we get that mastered, we can move on to the other functionality. So I have a background in intelligence as an example, so I already have tools for OSINT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Like if you guys can find a way to get everybody in the class to work together towards deploying Waza, getting everybody accounts on the dashboard so they can see what's going on, getting all of the agents deployed on your individual workstations, all that kind of stuff, we can go in and then finally test and see and make sure that that's the kind of stuff we'll do. So that may be the easier part, is we get it deployed and get some hands-on during the deployment process of how to do that. And then once you get it deployed, you get one group Waza instance up and running, then getting accounts stood up so that you can start pulling in logs or assigning some of the other services that we have up and running to point to that, then we can go ahead and do that as well. And if you don't get in on the initial Waza install kind of thing, well, then maybe you are deploying a couple web servers that will point their logs over to Waza. You're still getting the same service type setup because you're going to have to do that whether you install the base or you're the guy that goes around all the services and points it back to the base. Because we do intend to give them accounts on every Proxmox, right?
We can do that.
Okay.
Might do that on Thursday when we hook them up to NetLab just to make it easier.
Yeah,
Like
that's fine.
one, I just matched the usernames we created on NetLab.
Okay. In that case, it'll match their student IDs because it'll come out of the LMS.
Let's see. If I can get a list of them ahead of time, I can make them early.
Yeah. Passwords won't necessarily be the same unless you set them the same, but
I'll just set them as defaults and they can change them after.
that works.
I just leave it as default.
And so, Sam, from your perspective, that'll be the kind of things that we'll be looking for, is one, having people, we'll go through this Discord and see who's active, who's in there and who's supporting. But then when we get to, say, a full-blown Waza deployment, who deployed that, and then who's working on other packages. And then if they, the group says, okay, everybody go install the agent on your desktop, here's where to pull it from. Then we'll go around and grade all those individual desktops and make sure that they have the client installed correctly and stuff, meaning that they're participating with everybody else. So that's kind of the participation of how I see grading the participation, is if you get that up and you need everybody to install some software package on the VM so that it starts sending logs up, that you write up the instructions on how to do it, and then Sam goes through on each of those and makes sure that people did that. Anybody else got any thoughts or questions? Online, Riley, Kevin, Ian?
Do we need like periphery software to be suggested? Like when I was messing with Security Onion, I was doing VirtualBox deployment for Linux. Would you like me to drop that stuff in there?
In this case, we'll be deploying on a Proxmox install. So when you come in with your Windows machine on NetLab side, everybody will have access to a Proxmox system to deploy those virtual machines out.
Sounds good.
Because otherwise, deploying VirtualBox on that machine will start chewing up a bunch of different resources. Where you guys will have, I think, what, 3 servers dedicated?
We should. I mean, if you
Yeah, there should be three bigger Dell servers that are set up with Proxmox that everybody will have logins to, and so you can divvy those services across those 3 servers, including the servers themselves reporting back on Wazaa or whatever you guys choose.
let me double check, but actually, you should have access right now to corporate. You want to show it?
Through the corporate network.
Yeah. Let me double check that. I also got to remember what the password was.
There again, I'm mostly looking for people to go through and deploy it. What we'll probably do is when you guys deploy the virtual machines, if you guys are deploying individual ones or you guys assign yourselves to deploy ones, you throw your name in with the virtual machine so that it's easy for Sam to go through and figure out who deployed what and if it's actually functioning, that kind of stuff, not just a VM created that goes to a DOS prompt. Like it should actually go and fire up and do something. So.
That's the wrong password.
And Sam, you did join the Discord, didn't you? Okay.
Yeah, it is on the corporate network if you want to show it, just so they have something visual to look at.
Your screen
Where we
recording.
at? Yeah. Well, you won't be able to see it this way, but
172.23.12.8006. Sorry, 20.3.12.
again, you guys will be accessing this slightly different as you'll be coming in on an internal side. Put for a password here.
Sent you the root password in Discord.
You know it's going to be sent on the screen now, right?
You pulled it off. It's good.
This has to be a you and Caden thing.
That's what Caden made.
I would assume. All right, so you guys will end up having these 3 hosts, 41, 42, 43. They'll have local storage available. And then you guys will be responsible for deploying some of that stuff out there. So they've set up things like a Windows server that all the different PCs will report back to. You guys will be able to access that. You guys will be able to deploy extra servers on these individual ones to kind of balance everything out. Right. If you haven't worked in Proxmox before, it's okay. There's plenty of people in here that have or taken the class with John, so we can work with you to get started. That's where that support channel will be important. So let me make sure I get out of Gage's super long secret password here. There'll be this support channel, and so if you're struggling trying to get something deployed or not sure what to do, that's the whole point of this part of the class, is coming in here and asking those questions on how to do it. Do your best to figure it out. If you can't figure it out, come ask. All right. There's no, negative to that. There's only a positive to that, because then Sam can come in here and go, oh yeah, they're actively asking questions. Here's your participation points. You know what I mean? So use it to your advantage and pull it in there. If you see there's some other way, we got to organize this. This isn't working. make that change. That if you remember in the SOC planning documents, that's what stage you guys are in now, right? The planning, the policy, creating the stuff. In the very beginning, you guys have to figure out what works. I can tell you on internal of companies I've been with, and even here at City, we use things like Trello, and we use Trello cards to spit that kind of stuff out. It's going to be a little more difficult in this class to use Trello, but I think you guys can manage it within Discord and seeing how you can assign those tasks out. I will focus on the announcements to announce different thing that's going out. So pods are available. Here's the usernames, passwords, anything that comes from me or Sam as announcements. That's what will go in here. So please don't use that channel to do your kind of general questions and that kind of stuff. Use of general for that. This will mostly be admins. See if I can't. I don't want it private.
I think if you go to advanced permissions,
Yeah, there we go. There's Sam. There's me. There's everyone. And you can view. But pretty much turn off everything else, right?
Yeah. You'd think there'd be a select all button.
You would think. Okay. And there again, these kind of things, I'm not looking to necessarily dictate it. If I need to assign somebody to have all the permissions of a channel or whatever needs to go in there, so be it. The whole idea here is to figure out how you're going to get a bunch of people to work together to deploy something by the end of this. I have no set, this is how it's going to work, because that would be a failure. Like, it's never going to work that way. I know that. So I'm more of anxious to see how people can come together and pick tools, share information, do that kind of stuff. Because that, again, is what the employer was actually looking for as the activity at the end.
So as far as like picking tools and working together, is that something that's just going to be on us? Like you're not going to set up a poll or whatever?
Again, yeah. Like, so if you say, okay, we've had a good enough discussion in general here on different packages, you're ready to set up a poll. I think, Jeremy created this poll, right? So
Gotcha.
You guys are welcome to say, okay, let's go ahead and just put it to a vote and figure out what we're going to do. That's the whole intention.
Gotcha.
I put notes in there about today too, like the stuff we talked about, like links to things you said. So I was trying to be participative
All works.
because I forgot Discord existed for a bit.
Being primarily student-led, are you expecting this class to still keep doing a lot of in-person stuff, or is it mostly going to be an out-of-class activity where we're kind of working on it on our own time?
I still want to meet in here, obviously, at least on Tuesdays. And I'm okay meeting Tuesday, Thursdays just to keep the ball rolling. But if it's just to ask questions or a place to do that, I'm fine with that. In other words, this doesn't have to be the whole hour, 15-minute session anymore.
This is kind of whatever we want it to be.
You got it. If you need me to finally make a decision on something because we're not making progress and we only have 4 weeks left, then let's use that session to do that. Let's just make a decision and go.
I'll be here on Tuesdays and Thursdays just because I need to be.
That's fine. Think of me of like executive council. You need somebody to make a decision? Great. Otherwise, I assume you're all managers, and we all know what a group of large managers always works out to be.
Perfect.
Absolutely nothing.
So you're the CIO that we hear about,
You got it.
but never
I'm the guy that hides in the background.
until someone like puts their like
Until someone fucks up.
so someone puts that link that we sent out, and you just like walk back and forth, and you just kind of like eye us to the glass and go,
Yeah, it's not me being, I don't know, facetious or just trying to stay omnipotent in all of this. The whole goal is that you guys build this discussion and see what happens out of this. Now, next year, if I find out, yeah, that totally failed, okay, fine, I'll step in a little bit more. But my intention is to not dictate what you guys are doing, but just provide some insight and feedback guidance along the way.
with that window, you could just like walk up to it, close the door, and just like peer in.
I'll just watch you on the camera. I'll spin it around.
Can you talk into the class through that, like the speaker?
Oh, yeah.
You should
They got a
absolutely do it,
speaker?
Oh, yeah.
you should absolutely go, you're doing it wrong, still wrong.
Try again.
Have you considered doing it right?
So in the short term, is there anything you guys have seen or need in terms of resources from us? Obviously, access to the system to start playing around. And we will have that by Thursday.
I think, is there any Proxmox stuff that we should that you could point us to that would be helpful? Like just like some general guides?
Most of it, like if you see it in here, for example, if you went to say Security Onion, right, they're going to have Proxmox installation stuff. So they're going to tell you it's very similar to VMware. Here's what you need to do, kind of thing. So it's pretty cool.
VMware display?
What's that?
They use the VMware display? Okay.
If you plan to use Network Miner and it
Okay.
has issues, then you may want to use that.
How many of you all have experience with Proxmox?
I've watched other people touch it.
I'm guessing our Proxmox is going to be fairly low because we used to teach VMware and not a lot of people have migrated over to the other side. But that's okay. Like I said, we've got plenty of Proxmox experts in here. That's what the support channel's for. Put those in there. If you're having an issue with the Proxmox side, send something up there. Me, Gage, etc. will be happy to answer those kind of questions.
I've taken the Proxmox class, and I go when I can to
Mhm.
sit in and listen.
All good. And I did go back and do some research on the Splunk side of things. I can do it, but I got to renew all of our academic alliance and everything else, and it will take far longer than the 4 weeks in this class.
Okay,
So
that's good to know.
while you can get their little trial and stuff like that, it will only get you so far, and there's a cap on how much it'll do. Next year, I can try to see if I can get another license. The license they gave me in the past was fairly large. It was like a terabyte of data or something like that. Oh, wow. But you think Wazaz harder to deploy. Splunk is way harder to get fully implemented. That was when the testing that I did in there, it was not easy to implement. They've got 5 weeks of training just to get you through the installation part. So,
Sounds like my own software company.
but there again, that's a super high enterprise level. They don't have a install it and realistically try it. Their little free trial isn't like that. So. And like I said, you could use even Security Onion if you guys chose to do that. You're just gonna break that out into the entire deployment. So if you look at the architecture or use cases, even best practices, you'll find that you have to break all the individual packages out, not just use the development one. So on architecture, evaluation, everything's all in one box. But for what you guys are looking to do, it's going to be more of this distributed model in order for it to actually be a SOC type deployment. So in that case, you could have some people go in and set up the Elastic agents and the Seracatas and Zeeks, the people that know how to do the strong networking side, probably where they should be. If you've got people that are better on server management stuff, then you should get over here and do the log stash type stuff. Again, same concept within Wazaa. You're going to have the same pieces in here. So you've got the dashboard and the indexer, and you're going to have somebody that's going to tell you to go out and install all the agents on everything. Most software-wise, by the way, that we'll use in here will be something like Ubuntu. If we were to choose from these three, it would be Ubuntu-based.
You don't want to pay the Red Hat license?
No. Or the Windows 11 license.
Windows 11 is awesome.
You can steal those.
It's so good.
That was Gage Giffen that said that out loud over. Just throwing that out there.
Well,
Your humble servant.
I've never done that. I've heard that, like it's possible.
Yeah, backpedal now, buddy.
Yeah,
Backpedal now.
There's an evaluation period you could use too.
So like here, when you integrate your IDS, you're going to be using Seracata. They're going to walk you through how to set that up. Now, in this case, when you're going to set this kind of stuff up, they're going to tell you what you should be installing that package with. whether that's on this main system or whether we want to spin up another virtual machine that's purely doing the Suricata stuff. That is something you guys can decide and choose at that point. My recommendation is try to divvy out as much to a bunch of individual systems, even if that's a little more work and a lot of VMs out there. That's going to be easier for you guys to divvy up and everybody still have participation in there, right?
I mean, to make it a little easier, we can make like a base template VM and then clone
Yeah, we
that.
could start with a base Ubuntu image and then everybody can just clone off that template.
If we're gonna keep running on Ubuntu, we can just keep doing
That's
that.
probably the best choice. So we'll throw a Ubuntu template on all three of these machines so that if you're doing that, we'll show you how to clone it off and start from scratch. That's something we'll demo on Thursday. The only reason I don't want to run Ubuntu desktops for everything is because that's realistically not what you will see in the real world. There's some out there that'll run Linux, but far more will run Windows in terms of endpoint clients. Plus, it'll give you a mixed environment. So you'll have the Windows server managing all the Windows clients, but you're going to have all these Ubuntu images running all these other services. How do we get all of these to go back to Waza and be protected?
TLDR, it's a pain.
Should we have Proxmox like ready to go on Thursday so that we can?
You won't have to install anything. You'll have access to this environment here. Yep. Like I said, on Thursday, we'll go through how you access this environment. How do you fire up a lab on NetLab? What can you all do? Usernames, passwords, all that stuff is what we'll cover on Thursday.
I'll hopefully have a topology of this just because the network stack is a little complicated, but it shouldn't be too hard. I'll be watching the support chat for stuff like that.
We'll have in the topology, you'll be able to see when you come in on NetLab. So you guys will see where you're at in the topology, and then we'll also have it documented in Discord.
So in terms of coordination for all this, like, we're going to still do classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Mhm.
So we'll have like you as a support desk, basically.
Yes.
Like you're the IT help desk at that point. No offense, but
Yep.
For our online students and whatnot, how I assume that the folks online, like you can join us virtually and like we'll make sure that we do something like that, or get on a Discord call or something, because that actually might be beneficial in some sense.
Yep.
Speaking of which, could we make a support voice channel just in case someone wants to like share their screen of what's going on?
because I was going to say is I know we use Zoom to record it, but it might be beneficial to have all of us in Discord, have that support channel, and then that way, if we need to talk amongst ourselves, it's we're using the tool that we're coordinating with versus trying to get on Zoom.
Yep. Nope. That's fine by me. We're here.
Yeah, that was the main thing. Is just I know not everyone can be in class.
Yeah, and that's my intention behind the support channel and even the voice channel. That's fine. We can light up obviously during the Zoom here, we could do that kind of stuff as well. I intend to record I'd still like to have class on the Tuesday, Thursday, even if it's shorter, but just the recording so that everybody can kind of get caught up with where we're at if they missed a day or something like that.
But just for the online folks, I'll be here just because that way we have the whole time.
Cool. Let's see, Levi, you joined in. Did you have any questions or thoughts on this? Issues?
No, I'm just gonna go back and watch the video.
Okay.
Woke up late today. Whoops.
No, you're good. You're good. Ian, Kevin, you guys are virtual. You guys have any concerns on your side from what it's like being on the virtual side?
No, I think I get how to use the VMs and I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I just gotta keep up with my Discord, but yeah, should be fine.
Okay. If at some point you guys start to have issues on the virtual side, please give me that feedback. That way we can figure out what we can do differently on there. Because I'm assuming if you guys are struggling on the online side, that the ones that don't actively participate in the Zoom sessions, that they'll have that same issue as well.
I would say we should give at least one student ability to make channels at some point.
Yeah, that's fine.
That way, because like you said, we organize it that way, we don't have to wait. If it's to you, but like if we're in class or we're out of class, we can make channels as needed.
I don't even know where you do that.
Uh,
This is something.
it's a member
Under roles? I
thing.
think it's under roles.
Yeah, and you have to like,
Create a role.
I think if you just, or you can say everyone can make a channel or something.
yeah, if you do it under the @everyone, they'd have to manage channels, I believe, so they could create and delete them.
There should be a create channel option, but not a.
It was this managed channel is where it was at. We're just seeing if there was anything else that made sense.
Pin messages.
That might be nice.
Because that way, if there's a support or something, if there's a specific thing that we like, hey, everyone, look back at the pin message for line Z.
The only caveat is I don't necessarily want them to be able to delete channels, as that could be a problem.
I don't think there's going to be a way you can stop.
But there is if I create class. Nope, can't fine tune those anyway. Okay, disregard.
Probably be best just to use the threads if people want to create, if that's
Yeah,
what you're
the
concerned
threads
about.
will allow us to create posts.
Okay. Yeah, you can create the threads already, so that'll work.
And the forum channels nicely formatted. So
Yep. If we need another channel or something, that's something you guys can just bring and we can throw one in. You can sub-thread inside of there. Or if we need another discussion section, we can do that as well. Main thing is I don't want anybody to accidentally delete anything because then Sam doesn't have something to create. So prevent you guys from hurting yourselves. I got a 1-year-old, so I get that. Stop, you're going to hurt yourself.
see how it's red and hot. Touch it. Go ahead. Give it one try.
All right, that's all I got. At this point, I would just say keep researching, seeing what you guys can find. Use that general Slack channel to kind of decide what you guys want to move forward with. And in general, Thursday we'll get you access all to the back end, and then starting over the weekend into Monday, Tuesday, we'll be poking around trying to deploy something. My suggestion would be is, in the general chat or something else, post what you're looking to do so that others are aware. If it's something you're also interested in, then just mention that I will be looking at this too. I may deploy one, or if you guys have issues deploying that, at the end, we'll just obviously want one to hook up to everything else. So, but if you want the experience of deploying one of these and somebody else already wanted to do that, that's fine. You guys both deploy it, set it all up, and then at the end, we'll just decide who's going forward kind of thing. And that does not change your grade or points as to who goes forward. Because what you'll find is during that setup phase, one person's going to struggle at one part, the other person's going to struggle at another part. How are you guys able to work together to get through it? So this isn't you guys have to create a SOC or you don't pass the class kind of thing. This is more of, I want to see everybody engaged inside this. And then at the end, if we can get to where we have a working SOC, then the goal is Sam and some other graduates will start trying to poke holes in your product. All right, we'll see you guys Thursday.